today we're talking to Lydia. To lemonade, freshly pressed.
There you go.
Cheers.
Proust.
So we're in your studio.
Yes.
And so just like when you get here, what do you listen to get into the zone of being in the studio?
I usually, if I'm being honest, I watch a lot of like garbage, like reality TV when I'm in here. Something about turning my brain off when it comes to absorbing media lets me dedicate it to the canvas, you know? So I love a Real Housewives. I love a Love is Blind. I also watch a lot of like weird YouTube essays. And I also listen to, usually around 5, The Majority Report comes on, which is a really good live YouTube politics show. It's a good way to stay informed.
And how long, do you spend in this space when you get here? Is it kind of, I think a lot of people think, how long do you spend in it, like 9 to 5, or does it just however you feel?
Well, I like to have a luxuriously slow morning, so I usually get here around 12. And then we, with Mia, when I started the routine with us, because obviously I was doing it by myself before, we'd probably leave around 5, but now I stay till like 8 or so. Probably healthy. I definitely have a habit of like getting to super late nights and then like not socializing, and you don't realize it's happening because you're doing something you enjoy so much. But yeah, I think having her to kind of walk up to me and be like, "Can we go?" will be helpful in like creating a structure. But yeah, I'm here for probably like 6 to 7 hours a day usually. And
do you like having people in here, or is it quite a private space? Like, to me being here today, like what is it?
It is disruptive in the sense that like, I think painting for me is just such an isolated, solitary experience. And obviously like the type of work I'm making is very introspective, and it's just like reverberating between like the surface of the canvas and me, and just very personal. I definitely find that when someone's in here, I can't necessarily work. I love having people in here, but I'm usually not actually painting when that happens. But also that might just be like a coincidence because I don't have people here that much.
And we're in Bromley-by-Bow in London. You're from Baltimore. So why London? Why here? Why?
In a lot of ways, it was chance.
Hi, sweetie.
When I was 26, I knew I finally had like a practice that I was like, okay, this is consistent. I've found what painting is for me. I know what's going on. But I need to like percolate it somewhere. So I knew I wanted to go to grad school. Initially, I was very bought in on the whole like Ivy League, like Yale MFA thing. And in the States, they don't really tell you about like international programs that much, because they just want you to spend a load of money in America. So I was going to apply to like Columbia, Yale, Rutgers, and just keep applying till I got in. But then right before the applications, I spent time in Ireland at a school called the Burn College of Art in the West Coast, and they're kind of like a sister school to the RCA. And so I had heard of RCA before. I didn't really know anything about it. But I just had a gut feeling that I needed something completely different. So I applied to Glasgow School of Art and RCA, and I didn't even get an interview in the States at like any school. But I was immediately accepted to Glasgow and to RCA. So I was like, fate, the winds of fate are blowing me across the pond, So I moved here and I went to RCA, and then I loved living here. And so I've been here for 6.5 years. Yeah.
Being like a Londoner myself, having been born and brought up here, I always love it when people come to London and like discover it and want to stay here. It always makes me feel really like...
It's a very important experience, I think also. Unless you live in like a big city in America, it's quite a isolated, like a homogenous, culturally isolated experience. Because even in Baltimore, where there's like a Polish community, a Korean community, Latino community, Ethiopian, we don't like
it's very siloed off because America is very built for like segregation. And I think that here, especially with like public housing and stuff, but I think here, like, you're just always interacting with people from all over the world, which I think is such a privilege. I think it's amazing to get to live here, to get to meet people with like vastly different experiences and also learn a lot about my own biases and like unlearning those things by being exposed to like other cultures. So that's like one of the big things for me. Also, I love public transportation.
And it is
which is like not a thing in America. Even in New York, it's like falling apart. So, yeah.
Like, where do you start? How do you start when you're standing in front of a canvas?
I do a lot of like pre-planning for my work. Like a lot of times there's an image that'll pop in my head. For example, like this image of like me being a swamp thing or whatever's going on. I'm not really sure. That really jumped into my head, and sometimes it's something I can do on my own. A lot of the times, more and more recently, I have friends who are a fashion photography duo called Scandibergs, Alberto Albanese and Stefano Colombini. And we've just like worked together so well. And so they will often do photo shoots for me to like gather the images I need to like make these compositions. So I just did a water tank shoot for this exhibition. And so there's a lot of paintings that are going to be sort of suspended in the void. And I think for me, I wish I was someone that could kind of summon stuff. Like I know so many people who are just so good at just like willing an image into existence, but I'm so like, I'm more devoted to reality than I would like to be. And so I think photography is just like very essential to my work. So I do a lot of collages on Photoshop, and then I tend to transfer them with a projector because honestly, I just don't want to draw. I don't enjoy the process of like sketching out a painting. I just want to get to the painting. So I tend to transfer with a projector and just do like a really simple line drawing, and then I just go for it. Usually with all of the dark colors first, and then I build from there to create space.
And when you're, doing a work, do you have the audience, the gallery in mind, or is it very much, you're trying to tell your story? How do you approach it?
I mean, I've been fortunate enough that there's, the past few years, there's always been a destination. Like, there's only been 1 or 2 times I've been making something not knowing what its destination is going to be. But I try to treat it the same anyway. I mean, the nice thing about having like a solo exhibition is like, you're like, okay, this is like a chapter that I can work within. And like, what is the chapter about? What is the through line? Sometimes you don't know. Like for my first show with Udine in 2023, like I just started making the work, and then the thread, I started like unraveling the concept and like getting to the point, which was a sort of adversarial relationship within the self, and like using the sort of like villain slasher and like the victim as this like duality, and depicting myself as both. A lot of times, themes will present themselves once I start making a few paintings. With this one, it was a lot more clear from the beginning, because I just knew that I really wanted to do something with this like black liquid motif that has been present in my work, which has often been, it's pulled from horror films, from like possession films, from haunted house films, where like the pipes, the toilets, the taps will be filled with this like viscous black liquid to indicate this like possession or this malignancy, or you have your like girl in a white nightie like puking blood, like black blood all over herself, and she's like been infiltrated and cursed. And so I think that to me is just become this like physical representation of trauma and of the past and of all these things that like you're trying to keep in, that will eventually find like the path of least resistance out of you, or something that you can immerse yourself in and really investigate. So
do you think that you're getting it out by painting?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's also like, I go back and forth. Like there will be paintings that are very much like the liquid escaping the body, and the liquid like the sort of inability to contain all these things as much as you try, and the way that sort of trauma seeps out of you.
And how have you found that, once you're worked out there and lots of people are putting things on social media, how have you found that things like Instagram and social media have kind of impacted your work or your kind of place out when things are out of the studio?
Yeah. I think Instagram has been like really helpful because it helps me connect with like a larger audience, and I think I've made a lot of really cool connections on there. Like I always tell people the best thing you can do if you're trying to figure out how to like make personal connections in art and in the art world is like just DM people who follow you that you think are interesting. Like I got on Talk Art that way basically because I just messaged Russell Tovey when I had my White Cube show, and I was like, I know you're a celebrity, but would you like to come see my viewing room? And he was like, yes. And then he came and he saw, and then he invited me to be on the podcast. And I think like that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't reached out. And I think people are also told to like never reach out to people ever, which is like silly, because how are you meant to like make these connections? I think everyone is capable of it and can just like utilize social media to make those connections. But it's also, of course, you're constantly looking at what other people are doing, and then you feel like sometimes so inadequate and like I'm not making enough work, or like all these people are having like the coolest shows and I'm not doing anything. And like it's this yeah, I mean, we all project a certain image on the social media, so it's such a double-edged sword.
You're like kind of reflecting on, taking the things you've just said about social media. If you were, speaking to your younger self, and you were going to say this was terrible advice that you were once given when you were starting out, and this was amazing advice that you were given, what would you say?
Oh God, I feel like terrible advice would well, I definitely was told one time by a gallerist to like never ever just like email galleries or gallerists, never reach out to people. And I was just like, okay, I don't know. And then I actually ran a small gallery, and I was like, okay, but like sometimes cool people reach out to you. If you're actually interested, when it comes to sort of like being yourself, whether it's politically or in your work or whatever, and like projecting that into the world and like being scared of how people will perceive it. My best friend said to me, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to get a job. And I was like, you're so right. Like, because once you do get this sort of ability to make work and be a full-time artist, like it is scary, the prospect of like losing it. But it's important to put everything in perspective and know that like if you can't operate as who you are within the space, then it's just like get a job. Like you don't have to play ball in a way that like undermines who you are.
Did you ever have a mentor or anything like that you felt would like kind of taught you the ropes, showed you kind of what you needed to do, or do you think it's important, or do you just...
I mean, it would have been nice. I'm very lucky that I have been in arts and education for a long time. There isn't one person I would point to and say like this person guided me through all this stuff and has taught me everything, but I've had definitely like a lot of people along the way who have been very encouraging, whether it's teachers or gallerists or fellow artists. I think that I've just been very fortunate to be in arts education from a young age, and a lot of that, that's entirely down to my parents and their support.
So would you say that you didn't really have that, some people say that they have like a light bulb moment where they just knew that's what they wanted to do, or was it more that your parents put you to the school and then you got into it?
Well, I think they knew from a young age that this was like the only thing I was going to do, because I was always making art ever since I was little, and I also was very unhappy in like the education I was in. And I think and I come from sort of like a family that has some money, and it's not, we don't have like 2 houses or something, but it's not, they could easily pay for my education, and I went to private school and I was just miserable. And I think that we saw that there was a school around the corner that you had to audition to get into, but it was free, and you could focus on art and learn traditional art methods. And they said when they took me to the open house, they just saw me like completely light up, and they knew that they had to do this for me. And I'm so grateful, because if they hadn't, I wouldn't be here, because like that was like the beginning of the path to where I am now. And yeah, so I owe pretty, in terms of like someone who's driven me, I mean, my parents are really the ones, like, and it's not just like the idea of paying for school, it's also like the emotional support and them really taking a chance on me.
So quick fire round.
Yes.
Nickname.
Lid or lids?
Pen or pencil.
Pencil.
Spring or autumn.
Spring for sure.
Tea or coffee.
I'm drinking coffee every day now since my housemate moved in, so I'm a coffee person now, I guess.
If an artist that you would love to sit down and have a dinner with.
Kerry James Marshall. I would totally want to pick his brain.
Lark or night owl.
I'm a lark now because of this little girl. Get up every morning. She's got a schedule, got to keep it. Can't lay in anymore.
Sweet or savory.
Savory.
Forest or desert.
Forest.
Abstract or figurative.
Figurative, obviously, unfortunately.
Minimalist or maximalist.
Maximalist.
If you are reading anything right now, what are you reading?
The Body Keeps a Score, which is a really good book, and everyone should read it, especially if they've been through something traumatic.
And when you're kind of like, you're looking forward into the future and you're dreaming a little bit, are there any artists, you could choose dead or alive, that you would love to be in an exhibition with?
Yes.
Up to 3.
Excuse me, Mia.
She
You
wants
can't
some of
have
this.
citrus. You literally can't.
Okay, you love this lemonade, but it's not
Yeah.
for you, babe.
I would love to show with Artemisia Gentileschi. I think like I feel like so moved by her work and by what she did with her work in a time where like women had no support. I obviously would love to make my own versions of her paintings and the parables and biblical references that she played with. Yeah, I love her very much. I'd love to show with Antonio Mancini. He's one of my favorite artists. He is not that well known, but he was a contemporary of Sargent, and he is someone I talk about all the time. He was like very severely mentally ill. He was sort of like a prodigy, but then his mental illness sort of expressed itself, and he kind of went into poverty and was like relying on help from other people for the rest of his life. But he made these amazing self-portraits his whole life. They were so expressive and so wild and manic and just like touching and like human in like the late, 19th century, early 20th century, and in a way that I don't think anyone else was really doing that. And both of them are like examples of artists who really, I think, really use art to cope and art to process and art to like connect with themselves. And so I would love to be in an exhibition with them.
And for yourself, do you have any kind of hopes for the future where you'd like to see yourself, or things that you would like to aspire to?
I definitely aspire to just continuing to do what I'm doing. Like, I guess, obviously, I'd love to do more institutional shows and stuff, but I feel so content just living in my little house with my friend, with my dog, getting to come here every day, getting to sort of like work shit out in my brain through painting. And I'd love to do something like more like a public sculpture or something. There's other things that, little ideas that like float around in my brain, but I think it all leads down to just like getting to continue getting enough support to do this kind of thing. Because I'm very happy to continue living this life,
Wonderful life indeed.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if you have one. You also don't have to say it if you don't have one. But if there were an artist that you think is coming up right now.
I think Alexander Basil is amazing. He's also with my gallery, Gallery Udine in Berlin. I think his work is just a genius. He's just got such a unique way of expressing his life and like this sort of dysphoria and confusion of like being trans and like, but just like so skilled. I mean, he's just amazing. I think everyone should check him out for sure. And he also started doing some paintings of his sketchbooks with like anime drawings on it. And I was like, oh my God, that is exactly my life. So I just really relate to his work.
Well, I don't know him, so I'm going to definitely go and check him out and have a little look. Well, that's the interview part.
We've only done this 0 times.
Cheers.